Let's join Dad Arthur, Mom Ellie, their children Max, Lily, and magical dog Barley in their new adventure in the Dream Garden. In this episode, the Wheelers sail straight into the Storm of Change, where they must help a young girl named Maya realize that moving to a new home doesn't mean losing her past, but starting a magnificent new chapter. The Dream Gardener and the Storm of Change. Part 1. The Vanishing Path. The Wander Wagon rolled through a sector of the Dream Garden that felt uncharacteristically fragile. Usually, the ground was a firm carpet of emerald moss and ancient roots, but today, the landscape was shedding its skin. Golden leaves didn't just fall from the trees, they dissolved into gray mist before they even hit the ground. The air tasted of ozone and static, the kind of heavy tension that precedes a mountain-shaking thunderstorm. Arthur gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. "The road it's thinning, Ellie," he said, his voice tight with concern. He pointed through the windshield. Up ahead, the solid path was fraying like the hem of an old sweater. Bits of the trail were breaking off and floating upward, drifting into a swirling vortex of slate-gray clouds that had replaced the horizon. "It's not just the road," Ellie whispered, leaning forward. "Look at the map." The magical golden map on the dashboard was no longer showing a steady trail. The ink was swirling in frantic circles, and the icons for the previous gardens were flickering as if they might blink out of existence. Suddenly, the van lurched. Thump, creak, hiss. The front tires had hit a patch where the earth had simply turned into a cloud. "Everyone out, now!" Arthur commanded. The family scrambled out of the Wander Wagon just as a massive, spiraling vine erupted from the center of the road. It was the Turbulent Vine, a plant that looked less like a flower and more like a captured tornado. Its leaves were jagged and gray, spinning rapidly around a translucent stem. It didn't grow in the soil. It grew in the air, its roots lashing out like whips to grab anything passing by. As Arthur's boot brushed against a stray, spinning leaf, a sudden, violent gust of wind slammed into them. Whoosh! Roar! The world turned upside down. The familiar sights of the Dream Garden vanished in a flash of silver light, replaced by a chaotic, howling void. "Stay together!" Ellie screamed, but her voice was nearly drowned out by the sound of 1,000 shattering windows. They weren't on the ground anymore. They were tumbling through the storm of change. All around them, the air was filled with a frantic parade of household objects. A mahogany wardrobe sailed past, followed by a shower of old, handwritten letters that fluttered like panicked birds. A cracked porcelain doll spun through the air, its glass eyes reflecting the lightning. "Where are we?" Max yelled, shielding his face as a tattered armchair zoomed over his head. "We are inside the mind of a girl named Maya." A calm, resonant voice echoed through the wind. Celestian appeared, or rather, his image shimmered on the surface of a passing mirror. He looked grim. "Maya is moving across the ocean to a new city tomorrow. To her, it feels like her entire world is being torn apart. Her fear has manifested as this hurricane, and it is destroying the very memories she is trying to protect." Arthur tried to reach for his daughter, but a sudden gust pushed him away. They were all standing on different floating fragments of Maya's old bedroom, pieces of floorboard, a section of a bookshelf, a tattered rug. Below them was a bottomless abyss of gray clouds. "We have to get to the center," Ellie cried out, pointing toward a small, stable-looking island in the eye of the storm. On that island, a young girl was curled in a ball, sobbing. But the winds were too fierce. Every time Arthur tried to jump to a closer fragment, the wood beneath his feet would disintegrate. Crack, snap, crumble. The storm was feeding on the instability. The more Maya feared the loss of her things, the more the things broke apart. "I can't get a foothold!" Arthur shouted, his boots slipping on a piece of spinning parquet. "There's no center of gravity here. Everything is moving too fast." Barley, who had been balancing perfectly on a floating door, let out a sharp, commanding bark. Woof! The golden dog didn't look afraid. He looked focused. He stood at the edge of his wooden raft and began to glow, his fur radiating a deep, amber light that seemed to pulse in time with the heartbeat of the garden. Barley nudged Arthur's leg, and as the golden light touched the man, a heavy metallic object began to materialize in Arthur's hands. It was a complex, beautiful device. The magical stabilizer. It looked like a cross between a heavy brass anchor and a delicate clockwork gyroscope. At its center was a glowing crystal that pulsed with the same amber light as Barley's fur. A point of entry, Arthur whispered, feeling the weight of the device. Barley, you genius! Arthur slammed the base of the stabilizer into the floating floorboard beneath him. Clang! Suddenly, the fragments stopped wobbling. The golden light from the device spread through the wood, anchoring it to the air itself. I found the center! Arthur yelled. Hold on, Maya, we're coming! But as the stabilizer hummed, a massive shape began to form from the debris. The vortex golem, a giant made of broken toys and shattered bricks, rose from the clouds, its eyes glowing with the pale light of Maya's deepest anxieties. The storm was just beginning. The Dream Gardener and the Storm of Change. Part 2. The Architecture of Fear. The air around the floating island screamed as the vortex golem pulled itself together. It was a terrifying, jagged mosaic of Maya's life. One arm was formed from the splintered remains of her old wooden swing set. The other was a mass of tangled curtains and frayed skipping ropes. Its chest was a hollow cavity filled with swirling, yellowed letters, and its head was a cracked porcelain doll's face that flickered with a ghostly, flickering light. Roar! The sound wasn't a voice, but the grinding of stone against wood and the howling of wind through hollow spaces. It's massive! Max shouted, ducking as a stray fragment of a shattered mirror whistled past his ear. How do we fight a house that's fallen apart? Arthur stood his ground on the stabilized floorboard, his hands white-knuckled around the handles of the magical stabilizer. The amber crystal in the device's core was spinning rapidly now, throwing out long, spear-like beams of light that anchored their small wooden platform against the hurricane's fury. We don't fight it by breaking it, Arthur yelled back over the roar. It's already broken. That's the problem. Maya thinks her world is in pieces, so the pieces have become a monster. The golem lunged forward, swinging its massive arm made of swing-set timber. Crash! It slammed into the golden shield generated by the stabilizer. The impact sent a shockwave of sparks flying, and for a second, the amber light flickered dangerously. Arthur, the stabilizer is straining, Ellie cried out. She was clinging to the edge of the rug, her eyes fixed on the center of the storm. Maya was barely visible now, a tiny, shivering silhouette surrounded by a wall of flying debris. The golem is pulling more debris into itself. Every time Maya sees something else break, the monster grows larger. It was true. A collection of old storybooks flew into the golem's back, forming a jagged set of wings. A crate of toy blocks became a row of sharp, wooden teeth. Barley, help me! Ellie called. The golden dog, sensing the shift in the storm's energy, stood at the very edge of the stabilized platform. He didn't growl at the golem. Instead, he began to hum a low, resonant vibration that seemed to harmonize with the amber light of the stabilizer. As Barley's magic intensified, he nudged Ellie's hand with his glowing nose. In a flash of brilliant light, a second artifact materialized. It was a long, shimmering strand of light that looked like a needle pulling a trail of liquid gold. This was the golden thread of continuity. I see, Ellie whispered, her eyes shining with sudden understanding. Maya feels the connection to her past is snapping. I have to show her that the thread doesn't break. I'll get you closer, Arthur shouted. He twisted the dial on the stabilizer. Max, Lily, help me steer. We're going to turn this floorboard into a ship. The stabilizer hummed a deep, rhythmic vroom, vroom, vroom. The golden beams of light shifted from being anchors to being oars. The floating fragment of floor began to tilt and slide through the air, cutting through the wind like a surfboard. The golem roared again, sensing their approach. It raised both arms, preparing to crush their tiny vessel. Whirr! Whoosh! It threw a volley of shattered bricks, remnants of Maya's old garden wall, at the family. Hold on! Max screamed, grabbing his sister's hand as Arthur swerved the platform through the air. They dived under a flying wardrobe and banked hard to the left, narrowly avoiding a swarm of spinning kitchen chairs. As they neared the eye of the storm, the golem reached out to grab them with its curtain-fringed fingers. But Ellie was ready. She stood at the bow of their wooden ship, the golden thread glowing in her hand. Maya, look at me! Ellie's voice rang out, unnervingly calm amidst the chaos. The girl in the center of the storm looked up, her eyes wide with terror. She was clutching her wooden music box so tightly her knuckles were purple. It's all gone, Maya sobbed. Everything is breaking. I'll never have this again. It isn't gone, Maya, Ellie shouted, casting the golden thread into the wind. The thread didn't blow away. It acted like a living thing, weaving itself through the air. It snagged a flying letter, then a piece of a dollhouse, then a photograph. As it touched the flying debris, the chaos stopped. The items didn't fall. They began to orbit Maya in a gentle, rhythmic circle. The things change, Maya, but the love you have for them is the thread that holds your life together, Ellie continued. Your home isn't the bricks and the roof. Your home is the story you carry inside. The golden thread reached Maya's music box and tied a glowing, unbreakable knot around it. Suddenly, the golem froze. The broken swing set that formed its arm began to glow with the same amber light. The porcelain face cracked further, but this time, a warm, soft light poured out from the seams. It's working, Lily cheered. The monster is stopping. But the storm wasn't over yet. The golem began to shake, its massive body vibrating as the golden thread fought against the spirit of destruction. The debris was no longer flying away. It was being pulled toward Maya, but it was still jagged, still sharp, and still dangerous. Arthur, Ellie called out. The thread is holding the memories, but the world is still in pieces. We need to show her how to build the new one. Arthur nodded, his face set in grim determination. He pushed the stabilizer to its maximum power. We're going into the heart of the golem. Everyone, brace yourselves! With a roar of golden light, their floorboard ship accelerated, heading straight for the hollow, swirling chest of the monster. The Dream Gardener and the Storm of Change, Part 3, The Anchor in the New World. The floorboard ship surged forward, a golden arrow piercing the dark, swirling heart of the vortex golem. Arthur held the magical stabilizer with both hands, the amber light flaring so brightly it turned the shadows into day. Vroom, vroom, vroom. The hum of the machine was no longer a struggle. It was a song of order in a world of madness. They plunged through the golem's chest, a space filled with the whistling wind and the clattering of 1,000 forgotten things. Clink, clatter, crash. But as the stabilizer's light passed through the debris, the jagged edges of the broken bricks and splintered wood began to smooth out. The fear that had held them together as a monster was being replaced by something else. The courage to build. Maya! Arthur shouted as they broke through the inner wall of the golem. The girl was right in front of them, her small island trembling under the weight of the golden thread. Ellie jumped from the moving floorboard, landing softly beside Maya. She wrapped her arms around the girl, pulling her close. "Don't look at what is falling apart, Maya," Ellie whispered into her ear. "Look at what we can make with the pieces. The thread is strong. The love is still here." Maya looked at her music box, then at the golden thread of continuity that tied it to the swirling debris. Suddenly, she saw it. The debris wasn't just trash. It was the raw material of her life. She reached out her hand and touched the glowing thread. I was so afraid that if these things broke, I would lose the pieces of my life," Maya whispered, her eyes tracing the golden thread that bound her old music box to a fragment of her childhood window. Ellie squeezed her shoulder gently. "The things are just echoes, Maya. The music box isn't the memory. The way you felt when you first heard it is. That feeling doesn't have a shape. It can't be broken by the wind." Maya looked out at the swirling chaos, which was beginning to glow with a soft, rhythmic light. "So, even if I leave the house, I'm not leaving me behind?" "Exactly," Ellie smiled. "You are the storyteller, not the book. And stories need new chapters to stay alive." A spark of realization lit up Maya's face, brighter than the amber light of the stabilizer. "Then, this storm, that is, my move isn't an ending," she said, her voice growing steady and filled with a new, quiet strength. "It's just room being made. I don't need to hold on to every splinter of the past anymore. My memories are safe inside me, and that means I'm free to go. I'm actually curious now. There are adventures waiting for me in that new city, aren't there? Objects and faces I don't even know yet, just waiting to become a part of my story." As she spoke the word, adventure, the vortex golem finally stopped struggling. It didn't just collapse. It surrendered to her courage. At that moment, Barley let out a triumphant, joyful bark. "Ow!" The golden dog leaped into the air, his body glowing like a miniature sun. As he spun in the center of the hurricane, the magical stabilizer in Arthur's hands released a final, massive pulse of energy. The two artifacts, the stabilizer and the thread, synchronized. The transformation began. The vortex golem didn't explode. It began to fold. The broken pieces of the old house, the tattered letters, and the shattered toys started to click together like a giant magical puzzle. The wind changed from a destructive howl into a purposeful, rhythmic whistling. The jagged debris reshaped itself. The heavy bricks turned into light, buoyant stones. The tattered curtains became grand, shimmering sails. The fragments of Maya's bedroom floor merged to form the deck of a magnificent cloud ship. "Look!" Lily pointed, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's a boat! Maya's home is a boat now!" The storm clouds began to part, revealing a brilliant, starlit sky. The chaotic hurricane was gone, replaced by a gentle, supportive breeze that filled the ship's sails. Maya stood up, her music box safe in her pocket. She looked at the beautiful vessel they had created together. It was made of her past, but it was built for her future. "It's beautiful," Maya whispered. "It's not broken anymore. It's just different." She walked to the railing of the cloud ship and looked out at the horizon. In the distance, she could see the faint, glowing lights of a new city. A place that didn't look scary anymore, but like a new adventure waiting to happen. She felt the weight of the move lift from her shoulders. She wasn't losing her world. She was just carrying it in a new way. "Thank you," Maya said, turning to the Wheelers. She looked at Barley and scratched him behind the ears. "Thank you for finding the center." As Maya's heart found peace, her dream began to soften. The brilliant cloud ship started to glow with a pale lavender light. The girl lay down on the deck, which now felt as soft as a cloud cushion. Her eyes fluttered shut, and a deep, restful sleep finally took hold of her. She was no longer fighting the change. She was floating with it.
She's safe now,
Celestian's voice echoed, appearing one last time as a constellation in the stars above. She will wake up tomorrow in her new home, and she will know that her heart is the only anchor she truly needs. The world began to dissolve into a gentle mist. The Wheelers felt the familiar pull of the dream garden. Whoosh! In a blink, they were back. They were standing on the road where the turbulent vine had been, but the vine was gone. In its place, the ground was covered in renewal lilies, pure white flowers with long, flexible stems that swayed gracefully in the wind, but never broke. Their roots were deep and strong, holding the earth together. Arthur looked down at his hands. The magical stabilizer was gone, but he could still feel the steady hum of it in his palms. He looked at the wander wagon, which was parked exactly where they had left it, looking sturdy and familiar. "Is everyone okay?" Ellie asked, checking on Max and Lily.
We're more than okay,
Max said, looking at the lilies. "I think I'm actually looking forward to our next stop now, even if the road changes." Barley wagged his tail, giving a satisfied sneeze. Pfft! He hopped back into the van, ready for his next nap. Arthur climbed into the driver's seat and turned the key. Vroom! The engine purred like a contented cat. He looked at the golden map. Today, everything on the map looked normal, but who knows what it will show tomorrow. "Well," Arthur said, a small smile playing on his lips, "let's see where the wind takes us next." The wander wagon moved forward, leaving the field of renewal lilies behind, rolling deeper into the mysteries of the garden under a sky that was perfectly, beautifully still. Good night, travelers. Sleep tight and subscribe to join the Wheelers family on their new adventure.